Standard physics models time as a one-way street. It tracks a progression governed by the thermodynamic rise of entropy and cosmological expansion. This model effectively maps expanding space, but it ignores the behavior of conscious, finite systems. A biological organism or a closed synthetic system must generate an inward-facing vector to maintain its structural order against that external entropy. The temporal cohesion arrow reconfigures this sector. As it fractures, the model presents a scale-invariant mechanical gear train. This machinery is driven by the sovereign virtual machine, a localized system with fixed internal constants. These constants force the system to regenerate identical experiential loops across different paths in spacetime. At the center of that loop is a baseline constant. We call this driving cog the Beckingham Metronome, or tau, which maintains a pulse of 1.7062 solar years. When this internal pulse aligns in phase with external thermodynamic and cosmological time, the system reaches the Hyperion Synchrony principle. Subjective and objective dimensions of time momentarily coincide. We will reconstruct this architecture from the ground up, tracking the 1.7062-year pulse as it scales outward to drive institutional resets and galactic boundaries. Time is a mathematically closed engine. Its trajectory is dictated by a specific, measurable metrological ruler. This mathematical architecture mirrors Earth's physical metrology. Specifically, it reflects the relationship between the planet's solar and sidereal rotation. As the Earth orbits the Sun while spinning, it creates a phase slip. During one annual revolution, the planet completes one extra rotation relative to the stars. The 1.0027 ratio proves Earth functions as a dimensionless phase slip gear. Rotation is nested inside revolution. This phase-locking principle forms the foundation of the temporal tau matrix. Time scales upward through simple multiplication, building larger historical structures from the base pulse. 8 tau pulses establish a transition buffer of 13.6496 years. Scaling to 29.3 tau generates 49.99 years, providing the mechanical structure for a 50-year Jubilee loop. These loops split into 25-year demiharmonics. These blocks act as geometric mirrors, where the signatures of an inception are reflected at the cycle's midpoint. Societal shifts follow a predictable mechanical schedule. They are bound to a quantifiable progression governed by the scaling of tau. When these nested gears realign to a zero state, the system achieves phase closure. The Z3 common zero reset is the primary alignment of the temporal matrix. It requires 293 tau pulses to trigger. These 293 pulses equal 10 Jubilee loops, generating a single 499.9-year epoch. At the conclusion of an epoch, the matrix forces an administrative wipe. The system clears out the old administrative scaffolding to boot up a new tactical format for the incoming cycle. We can calibrate this metrology against the 1892 to 1893 Gregorian bracket, a 44-year ledger known as the sonic enclosure. This is the 1893 vertical diesel engine. The system logged this mechanical blueprint to trigger the current industrial engine exactly on schedule. To offset that mechanical expansion, the matrix executed an acute financial contraction script, the Panic of 1893. Programmed biological turnover introduces systemic disruptors at these nodes. Mao Zedong entered the matrix within this specific bracket. J.R.R. Tolkien, the era's primary mytho-linguistic architect, was born in the same window. The matrix balances these entries with required exits. The composer Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was removed from the board in 1893. The removal of Alfred Lord Tennyson in 1892 cleared the cultural anchor of the previous era and locked the bracket. History functions as a dataset populated by the parameters of the Z3 epoch gear. The events of the 1890s are the outputs of this structural rotation. The system hides these massive resets using a camouflaging microengine, the 19-year Metonic wheel. Because 19 years is the threshold where solar and lunar cycles realign, the system can shift the clock backward in 152-year blocks. The celestial alignment remains static, making the temporal shift invisible to the observer. The tau pulse scales to planetary boundaries. 15,191 pulses construct the 25,918-year precessional great year. Further out, 696,148 tau pulses define a single galactic tick of 1.18 million years. The cosmic clock uses an exponential inner countdown, stepping down from a 230 million year galactic lap to a 23 million year transition node. This cosmic compression is governed by an invariant anchor, the 0.8739 ratio. The Milky Way scales 383 billion years of cosmos down to the exact mechanical parameters of the tau engine. Historical and cosmic cycles do not loop perfectly. They are subject to topological impedance. Dividing a 6,000-year cycle by the 152-year Metonic clock leaves a fractional remainder of 0.4736, roughly 72 years. This unallocated residue prevents a clean loop. It forces the architecture to wind inward along a golden ratio spiral. This inward wind forces 3 distinct macrogears to interset as the timeline reaches its solvency floor. These converging elements are the 13.6-year astronomical buffer, the 80-year human seculum, and the exponential mathematical phi compression track. All 3 gears achieve phase lock at a single intersection. The mechanism stops spinning. This terminal calibration point is coordinate 0. The Coherence Dynamics Laboratory classifies this intersection as a Mobius snap event. Since the inward spiral has run out of room to continue its wind, the model predicts a theoretical inversion where the end of the sequence joins its beginning. This is a coordinate calibration, not an inferred physical doomsday. Time is a closed mechanism. It is running out its calculated fractional remainder to reach a mathematical baseline, leaving the observer with the reality of the tau matrix.